Microsoft says no PS5 after buying Redfall studio, dev says. This should be an interesting conversation. What's going on, everyone? That guy right here with the gaming news you need to know. And today I wanted to talk about this Microsoft Sony drama, specifically centered around Redfall. If you guys have been following the channel for the last couple weeks, I've been doing a little bit more Redfall coverage, as it is a game that I'm very excited about. It's a game that I'm interested in. I think it's a game that a lot of people have been waiting for. But if you guys do enjoy the content, you already know, drop a like on this video, subscribe if you're new here. We do a lot of gaming related news and playthroughs for the latest and greatest games coming out all the time. So I wanted to talk about this because I found it to be really interesting. We're going to jump right into this, as it says that developer Arcane has commented on what changed with its vampire game Redfall after Microsoft bought studio owner ZeniMax. So speaking to IGN France, director Harvey Smith said that there was a huge sea change for Redfall after Microsoft bought the company, and this included a decision to not bring the game to PlayStation 5. Now, I want to touch on that really quickly because apparently when Redfall was in development, it was in development for both Xbox Series X and S, as well as the PlayStation 5. However, when Microsoft came in, the deal was finalized. They were buying ZeniMax, which included the developers that make Redfall. Microsoft came in and was like, no, sir. No, sir. We ain't making this for PlayStation. We're making this for us. And obviously, you know, that's a whole different discussion for a different day. You know, the topic of exclusivity, I'll give you my keynotes at the very end of the video. But moving on from there, they said no PlayStation 5. Now we're going to do Xbox Game Pass, Xbox, and PC, Smith said. Microsoft announced its intent to buy ZeniMax in September of 2020 and completed the buyout in March 2021. Some are suggesting that Arcane was working on a PlayStation 5 edition for Redfall and canceled it after the buyout, but Smith did not say this outright. GameStop has contracted Microsoft in an attempt to get more details on the situation. So it looks like GameStop has contacted, has been trying to, discuss this with Microsoft. See, what are your thoughts on this whole situation? But apparently they haven't been able to get any word on that situation. But my guess is, the writing's on the wall, guys. The writing's on the wall. They came in, they said, hey, we own you now, and we're not making this for PlayStation. We're making this for Xbox. Now, they say that, for the most part, I don't know what other games exist or are currently being made that had contracts with Sony, with PlayStation, that was stating that, hey, we're going to make this game will be on PlayStation. Because I think, Phil Spencer has already come out and said, we're going to honor those contracts, whatever those contracts were for games that are already in development. But in terms of future games that come out, you can very well believe that game or those games are going to be releasing as exclusives. I mean, it just is what it is. I think Microsoft has been behind the 8 ball for a long time, for many, many years, in terms of exclusives and in terms of drawing attention to their platform and to their console. And let's be honest, not everybody wants to play Minecraft. I don't even know if Minecraft even on PlayStation? I have no idea. But either way, Microsoft has been behind the 8 ball. The true exclusive that they've had is, obviously, they have a racing game, Forza Horizon. They've got, Gears, if that ever comes around, right? They've got Halo. If that ever hits its, I think Halo is beyond its heyday, but it is what it is. And so, yeah, they need exclusives, so these buyouts and these acquisitions, they're not any surprise to me. Moving on from there, development on Redfall began on the onset of COVID-19 pandemic prior to Microsoft's buyout of ZeniMax. So it seems possible that a PlayStation 5 edition of Redfall could have been in development, but that is not confirmed. I very well believe that this was the case, because obviously this whole situation happened before Xbox and Microsoft came in and bought them. So it is very well, it's obvious, to believe that they were potentially in development for a PlayStation 5 edition of the game, given, their previous game, the previous game that Arcane came out with, which was Deathloop, that ended up being a PlayStation exclusive. So if their next game, Redfall, wasn't meant to be PlayStation exclusive, I very well believe that it was likely that it was at least going to be on both consoles, and so, yeah, and I'm sure, Deathloop, that whole thing, I'm sure that didn't sit well with Microsoft, having to, sit on the sidelines while this game was released as an exclusive. Even if it was a timed exclusive, it still gives them the advantage and says, hey, if you want to play this game, you got to buy a PlayStation. Anyway, in any event, Some are saying that this is a bad look for Microsoft amid its proposed buyout of Activision Blizzard because it shows that Microsoft is taking a formerly multi-platform game developer and assigning them to a single console platform, in this case, Xbox. A judge has agreed with the suggestion that Microsoft does not always keep to its public promises, but it isn't necessarily enough to make a legal case. And for what it's worth, Microsoft never said it would keep Bethesda games multi-platform following the buyout. I mean, this is true, guys. And like we said before, and you've seen this probably many other occasions said by many other people, that you don't spend $7 billion on a company. Let me repeat that. You don't spend $7 billion on a company, a studio, whatever, and not try to make it advantageous for yourself, for your motivations, right? And those motivations for Xbox is getting people, to be honest, I think it's, in part it's getting people to buy an Xbox, of course, but it's also building that respect that Xbox is a reputable, quote unquote, platform. And I say quote unquote because, I don't have any, I don't have a dog in this fight. Console exclusives, if I'm being honest with you, are stupid, but at the same time, they are necessary, right? Unless you're playing on PC. If you're playing on PC, you've always been playing on PC, you probably don't care about this. This doesn't matter to you. But if you were on console, you've been on console pretty much your whole life, right? Team Xbox, Team PlayStation, whatever. I've always said that having an exclusive game, I think in some aspects is obviously part of the business, right? At the end of the day, these are competing companies trying to, be on top in terms of the gaming space. And if we're being honest with you, if I'm being honest with you, I had a PlayStation 4, and I had an Xbox One. And to be honest with you, I barely touched my Xbox. And I've been wanting to because I was big on the 360. That was the only console I played. I had a PS3 and a 360. I only played my 360. And then Xbox came around, and it just didn't have games like that. Any game that Xbox had, PlayStation also had. And then PlayStation had their exclusives, and most of the exclusives they were coming out with were just absolute bangers. So it just made more sense to they definitely, whatever, if that was their strategy to keep you on the PlayStation console, I mean, it was definitely working. And so seeing how Xbox and Microsoft are buying all these companies, trying to get exclusives, I don't like the exclusivity of it all, but I get it, right? I get it, because they gotta bring attention. They gotta bring heat to their console and say, hey, we got these games now, and I'm curious to know what you guys think about that in the comment section. What are your thoughts on, exclusives in general? What do you think about them? Do you think they should exist, or do you think they should exist with certain parameters? I think, of course, buying smaller studios, like if a small indie studio or whatever comes around, they make a game like Returnal. Housemarque made Returnal. They weren't owned by anybody, and they did a great job. That game was insane. And then, PlayStation, Sony ended up buying them. They were like, hey, you did a great job. And to that, I don't mind. Right? I think that makes sense. You want to buy a dev studio because you believe that their mission and the games that they create really could benefit your platform and benefit your studio, then by all means, right? I mean, it's just the nature of the games. Developers, studios are going to get bought, right? But I think buying up entire cornerstones of the gaming industry, right? Like Bethesda is a major cornerstone. They're a major publisher, and they have a number of studios under their belt. I always found that, I don't care who it is, Sony, Microsoft, no matter who did it, I feel like it's kind of like, that doesn't sit well with me. It feels like you're trying to create a monopoly. And I'm not just saying this because Microsoft is doing it. I would say the same thing if Sony was doing it, because it would feel like, I don't know, this feels a little sketch. Like Bungie, Sony buying Bungie, that to me feels like a different story, because Bungie, it's not like they got like 12 different studios. Bungie is its own studio. Like I said, buying a studio, if that's what you want to do, you feel like you have the money for it, and you think that what they do is going to benefit your platform, by all means, buy the studio. But I think, like I said, buying up entire pockets of the industry, like Bethesda, like Activision, that seems a little wild to me. Anyway, the interview continues on. In a separate interview, Smith used the same sea of change comment about what happened with Redfall after Microsoft bought ZeniMax. Smith and Microsoft buying the studio allowed Arcane to focus on fewer platforms because PlayStation was no longer in the mix. Smith added that Redfall coming to Xbox Game Pass is a big deal because it expands the game's potential and audience significantly. In the IGN interview, Smith said Redfall has the potential to become Arcane's biggest game ever by player count thanks to Game Pass, and a subscription program that he guessed might have 30 million subscribers. The latest numbers from Microsoft show that Game Pass has 25 million subscribers as of January 2022, but that figure has no doubt grown in the last year since then, which makes sense. So yeah, I think overall, guys, I mean, I wanted to talk to you guys about this because I really want to get your thoughts. I want to hear your opinions. What do you think about this whole acquisition deal? Do you feel like that is you feel like it's okay that Microsoft did that? Do you feel like it's a little shady, especially if the game was in development for PlayStation 5? Do you feel like it's a shady business practice to say, no, cancel that, you're not doing that anymore, you're doing this? Obviously, you know, there's no proof to say that that was in fact what happened, but if it came out and that is what actually happened, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. I very much believe Redfall was properly in development for PS5 too. Either way, doesn't matter to me. As someone who also plays on PC occasionally, I'm going to be playing Redfall regardless. And so I just wanted to read this article with you guys to hear your thoughts. What do you think about this? Do you think that there is some substance to this article? Do you think that there is potential, the idea that they were in development for PS5 and then Microsoft came in and said no? And if that is the case, what are your thoughts on that? Do you find that to be a little shady, or are you like, hey, business is business? Let me know in the comment section below. Drop a like on this video if you do enjoy. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. My name is That Guy Rye, and I will see you in the next video.